the Natchitoches Parish School Board. We are glad we have some special guests joining us tonight. Ms. Revels, could we have a roll call, please?
Here.
Mr. Matuire. Here. Mr. Benefield.
Here.
Mr. Harris. Present. Mrs. McGaskey. Ms. Palmer. Ms. Phelps.
Here.
Ms. Harvey.
Here.
Mr. Fredu.
Here.
Mr. Nicholson.
Here.
And Ms. Page.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We will start the meeting with a superintendent's report. Dr. Eloy?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The first group I want to, well, the only group that I want to talk about tonight, because we're going to have some other groups next week, is the Natchez Central boys basketball team, who, continuing their history and legacy of excellence, made it to the semifinals, made it to Lake Charles to, I believe they call it Marsh Madness, play on March Madness, obviously, and represented the district and their school as well as any other team from this district. And we would like to recognize them and then also recognize Coach Sepulvedo and his team. I think I see Coach, Coach, I always mess it up, Uselton. But want to recognize them, maybe share a few words about their season and just celebrate their success this year. So, Coach, if y'all want to come up to the front and say a few words. I hear you at the basketball games. You're never quiet there.
Oh, no, I'm a lot more comfortable there. I'm in my element there, not as much as my element right here. But again, like I said, I just want to thank y'all, appreciate y'all, all, everything that y'all do for us, in our program, our school, our community, to allow us to go do what we love to go do every single day. And again, as you kind of brought up previously, we were able to make another trip down there to Lake Charles again this year. This is our 8th trip in 12 years, in order to make it down there. Our seniors did a great job of leading all year long. That's a token to what they're able to go do every single day. And that's what we're trying to figure out to go replace. We started back working Monday. I always give them 2 weeks off, and after 2 weeks, we get back to rolling. And so these first 2 days, we figured out just how big of a role those seniors had for all of us in order to get down there. Everybody stays on Toby, especially about he talks too much. But right now, we don't have anybody in the gym talking the past 2 days. Now that Toby's not in there for us. Same way with D-Money, JP, Darian Anthony. We call him D-Money. JP and Jaden. And so, like I said, I do appreciate those guys, how hard they worked all year long to get us back down there. Because a lot of times with the group, once they get down there, the following year sometimes is a lot tougher to get down there than it is originally, because now you have that expectation. I feel like last year's group, coming from the year that we had previously, we were 11-18 2 years ago. And so last year it might have came out of nowhere for a lot of people. But like I told this group, you're not surprising anybody right now. You were able to get down there last year, get to the state championship game. And so now you're not sneaking up on anybody ever. You're everybody's Super Bowl every night. That's part of it. And those guys did a great job of handling it and getting us back in a position to compete and fight for a state championship. And again, this week is what we started back for our run next year. Again, we're trying to get down there and finish it off. We haven't been able to finish it the way we need it to, but we're going to get there. That's what we do. So I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir. And I think it's important to note that you may not have gotten that final piece, but 8 out of the 12 years, I think there's very few programs in the state on the 5A level, or really probably on any level, that can look at that and say they're equal to it.
Yes, sir.
That's special, and that's a type of success that very few programs anywhere, in any sport or any endeavor, can equal. So
yes, sir. I appreciate it. And I forgot something. My principal's going to appreciate this, because I forget a lot of times. We bring it up a lot, and they've probably heard it a lot. And we brought it up the other day when we went and visited NJH. But something else with these guys, our team GPA is 3.69. We had 0 discipline referrals this entire school year. We haven't had a single discipline referral this entire school year. No in-school suspension, no out-of-school suspension, no lunch detention, no anything. These kids, these young men, they do a great job. of representing our school, representing our community, and holding themselves and the entire group to the highest standard possible. You know, they police all of it. I don't really have to. You know, they do a great job of making sure that their teammate is doing what he's supposed to be doing when he's supposed to be doing it. And that's something, again, that those seniors, that we're going to miss a lot with those seniors, because those seniors did an unbelievable job with it. You know, all three of my seniors, their GPAs, their 4-year GPAs are 3.5 or higher, all of them. And, you know, there's a ton of things that they do that we're going to miss, that it's next man up. You know, now those juniors that are getting ready to become seniors, those sophomores that are becoming juniors, freshmen becoming sophomores, because the standard's not changing. So we just need somebody else to fill in those roles. But again, I had to bring that up. Michael would have fired me if I didn't bring that up.
Coach, would you mind introducing your staff you have with you tonight?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Now, Coach Jordan Dupuis is also with us. He's not here tonight. And then Coach Darius Burton also with us. He's working right now. But young man right there in the back in the gray, that's Coach Brian White. He's a guy that's been around here for a while. You know, he was able to win a state championship for us in 2016. He was our starting point guard and went and played here at Northwestern, played at Xavier, was a conference champ at Xavier his last year there. And then Coach Caleb Usselton also has been with us now since, how many? 9 years. So, you know, we're blessed to have a staff that's committed to our school and committed to our program with what we're able to go do.
I'll come back next year with the state championship, and I'll pronounce Coach Usselton's name correct.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate
So,
it.
Coach, did any of your players want to speak? Did anyone have anything they wanted to share?
Toby, you want to speak? Anybody? We're good.
But you had somebody commit today, didn't you?
Jaden Braden, yes, sir. Jaden's going to play at Bibsy. Yes, sir. He is going to continue his basketball and academic career at Bossier Parish Community College.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Jaden.
Yeah, very, very proud of that also.
Did
Y'all are good? Jay got it? Come on, Jay. See, that's what we're going to miss. Jay's the only, yeah.
Well, Coach, if they want to come up, I'm sorry, Toby's going to speak first, but then when he's done, we can
Jaden
get
Braden.
Jaden, sorry. We're going to get a picture after this.
Oh, hey, everybody. I just wanted to come and say how much these guys mean to me right here, and I can't wait to see them play next year, you know what I'm saying, and try to get that ring for their seniors that didn't get it done this year. But I fully believe that every single one of them, except Toby and D-Money, they are prepared to go get a ring next year, so that's all I have to say. And thank y'all for all y'all support. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Jaden.
All right, Coach, if they want to come in front of the everything here, we can get a picture.
You want to go around and get?
Yeah. All right, just get in kind of a spread out in front of the.
When we were out there.
Yeah, you can stand in front of us. It don't matter.
I've been back in.
Run some jeans, dude.
Here we go. Y'all act like y'all have done this before. On 3, 1, 2, 3. What's our saying?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Congratulations, guys.
Congrats, boys. Proud of that.
So next week we will have the Lakeview girls, and we'll get to celebrate them. They've been on kind of a little press tour here lately after their state championship, so that'll be fun. So moving on to the other items I have, board, the district is looking at, due to the changes in the different schools, in the move and all of that nature, you know, we have a quote-unquote new school in the fact that NJH will now have 6th grade. So we are putting out a survey this week through the Natchitoches Parish Journal to see if the community would support a name change from Natchitoches Junior High to Natchitoches Middle. Very much going to see where the public sentiment is on that and then bring that to y'all. If the public is completely opposed to it, then we obviously would not bring it to you in terms of a vote. it would just die there. But if they are, then we would bring it to you to possibly continue in that step. Also, want to highlight East Natchitoches. They are one of the only schools in the area, but definitely the only school in the parish that has been participating, I think, for the past 4 or 5 years now in the science fair, the regional science fair, and they continue to succeed in that, getting several students placing and being able to go on to the state science fair. And, you know, I know when I was in school, science fairs were a big deal, social studies fair too, and it's kind of taken a little bit of a backseat in the past decade. But we really appreciate them putting the emphasis on STEM there, and not only putting the emphasis on it, but then succeeding in that as well. So big props to East Natchitoches in the science fair. Pivot a little bit. Many of you saw the election this past weekend, the state election. Amendment 2 failed, and the big repercussion for us now is we are going to be waiting and watching in the legislative session, and also advocating that the governor find the money to continue the teacher, whatever they want to call it, the money that they've been giving us for the past 2 years that they called a stipend and didn't want to make it permanent. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I know LSBA and LAS and individually as board members or as superintendents, we need to push our legislators to I know the governor said that this would have been a pay raise. I respectfully disagree that it was a pay raise. It was just solidifying what they'd already given us. But I definitely think that it would be a stain on this state if we saw a pay reduction. And call it whatever you want. That's what would happen if they don't find the money in this next fiscal session. So we will update you as more information comes out on that. I also want to update you on everything that has happened since the vote last month concerning the rebanding and obviously the closure of Goldana. That happened on a Thursday. We did not take the day off Friday, but we did not communicate Friday. We wanted people to be able to kind of sit with those emotions and thoughts. And then Monday we sent out an email that was described a lot of things that would be happening. That email, I believe, for the most part, was well received in the sense that it gave a lot of information for the staff. A week later, we sent out a survey to get basically a survey asking how we could better support staff through the transition, and that's given us a lot of information. We also set up an email moving questions at npsb.la, so that way we could answer anything and everything coming our way in terms of that. Some of the things that came out of the survey and discussions with staff, offering a stipend for teachers. It's very important to teachers that for many of them to be there whenever their personal items are moved. And so we decided that we would be offering a stipend for 1 day's worth of work if they want to be there. If they don't want to be there, they don't have to be. But if they choose to be there, which I think many of them will, we feel is it's only appropriate to pay them for that time. Also, a big issue apparently in the previous banding was the fact that the district did not purchase boxes and labels. Teachers took that not very well in the fact that you're asking me to move and then you're asking me to purchase my own moving equipment. So we have already purchased boxes and labels and et cetera, all the accoutrement for moving, so they won't have to worry about that. We've also made sure that in the process of the move, we will clean all rooms prior to teachers moving into them, because there's nothing worse than the only thing worse than having to move is having to move into a room that's not prepared to be moved into. So we will do a deep clean of all those rooms. Over the past few weeks, we've also, district staff has been informally reaching out to staff members to have conversations with them about what they like, dislike, etc., to try to give us better information as to how to move forward. Those have been really productive. If you haven't talked to a district staff member, it's just because it was very informal and you may not have been in the room at the time. And then also starting next week, I will be going to every school impacted by the moves and having a faculty meeting. And I'll also be bringing some folks from the district with us to answer as many questions as possible. The one lingering question on most everyone's mind is what school am I going to be at? For some people, that should be obvious, but for others, it's not. And then who will be my administrator? We have set the date of May 9th to disseminate that all out. It'll all go out at once via an email that's individualized to that person. I accidentally put May 10th originally on the email, and then I was quickly told that that was a Saturday. It will not go out on a Saturday. It will go out on that Friday. And I have been questioned why May 9th, why not earlier? And the simple reason is twofold. One is we did not want to interfere with testing at all by dropping such important information on folks during that time. And then the other part is telling them on May 9th still allows for 3 weeks in the transfer window. The transfer window ends on June 1st, sorry. So every employee would receive their information on the 9th and still have a solid 3 weeks to make a decision if they want to move to another school. So far, and we've also created a massive timeline that's broken down by months. We've gotten through the first month. We've exhausted every to-do list on the March to-do list, and we're now on to April, and things are going smoothly, but obviously, as we go month to month, things are going to ratchet up, and the intensity of the move will ramp up. All right, moving on to some lighter news. We want to recognize Mrs. Shirley from Middle Lab. She is now a state finalist for the Louisiana Science Teacher of the Year, a very prestigious honor. If she either way, she's considered like a winner and she'll represent Louisiana, but if she beats out the other two people, which of course she will get $10,000 and a all expense paid trip to the White House to be recognized by the president and his staff. So that's really cool. I think we've had one other winner before. Miss Paula Callender, I think, won the same award a few years back. We also want to recognize the LPB Louisiana Young Hero, Miss Gabrielle Essex. We're going to invite her to come to the board room probably in May. That they only chose 6 statewide, and she was one chosen by the Louisiana Public Broadcasting. And she's, as y'all have probably seen, she's always such a good representative of our district, always being recognized for something. Also want to touch on 2 more things. Really quick, the sick leave bank policy, you'll notice that there's not an amended policy on there. After talking to Mr. Hall extensively over the past month, they were fine with the previous policy. There are some possible tweaks to that policy that they'd like to see happen, but what we're going to do is keep the policy as is for now and maybe make some of those tweaks for the next school year. But very minor tweaks as opposed to the very extensive list of changes that were problematic for teachers from last month. And then finally, we have another invitation for someone to come up to the podium. Mr. Laurent Baptiste, he has been in the job for about 2 weeks now. Mr. Baptiste is the new terminal director at ECHO. He is not presenting tonight as an informational report. His first informational report will be next month after he's been in the job for 6 weeks at that point, or maybe 5 by the time we do that. But I wanted y'all to be able to put a face to a name and for him to be able to introduce himself and get to know y'all a little bit. So, Mr. Baptiste.
Good evening, board, Dr. Eloy, staff. Again, my name is Laurent Baptiste, and I am the new terminal manager for ECHO. I bring to you guys about 35 years of transportation and logistics experience. I've also got about 4 years of classroom teacher experience as a certified teacher in Rapides Parish. I just want to let you guys know I'm excited to be at home working in my community, and I'm excited about what we can do for student transportation here in Natchitoches. So with that, I'll take my seat, but we've got a lot of good things happening. I'm super excited, again, to be at home, and just happy to be able to work with everyone.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you all.
Madam President, that concludes my report for the month of April.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Eloy before we move on? None noted. So we will move on to the informational reports, item 6A. We have a budget report by Mr. Lee Waska.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, here we go. Well, it's pretty much everything is doing well. You'll notice here in the general fund budget that revenues are down a little bit, and that's due to the MFP lowering. Sales taxes are generally flat, but expenses are also down. I think we're within a few thousand of where we were the same time last year, so you can see that some of the changes we made with cutting expenses have kept up. I know this shows a lot of profit. You will notice that last month, this was 26 million. This was around the same number, and what's happened is the month of collections of the property taxes has happened, and that was $11 million worth of property taxes that we collected. Child nutrition is still doing well with a positive 287,000. I'm always happy about that. Last year at this time, if you look at this, let's see here. I'll make sure. Last year we were in a losing situation of 250,000. This year it's a $500,000 turnaround if you add those two together. Almost a little bit more than $500,000. Collections are higher than last year, but so I'm really happy with the fact we have a revenue positive growth in food service. Title I looking good, and ESSER, this is now complete. This is ESSER. It's now complete. No more changes for the rest of the year. And that's pretty much it.
Mr. Wascom, do you think, so will those line items stay there month to month, or will that eventually fall off the statement?
Well, I present the ESSER 3 formula at the pleasure of what y'all asked for years ago. It's irrelevant. Like ESSER 2 was deleted when I started this year's reports. So eventually we need to delete ESSER 3. Probably July 1, that will not be a part of this.
Okay,
So if y'all would like me to report strong grant, for instance, I could then put strong grant on there.
okay.
'Cause that's one of our more significant, I try to put significant grants in this situation. So there's a significant grant.
Thank you. I was just curious about that. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Wascom?
That's just on that one.
Okay. So if you don't mind, we'll move to item 6B, the sales tax report.
I have good news. You'll notice right here, this is last year, 1,568,000, and for the month of February collections, we got the notice yesterday. Yesterday I was able to get it to you for today's report. We had a 5.35% increase. Now, once again, February's money collected is for January sales. The impact of the IP plant, any impact that there might have been are not reported in these numbers. Next month's will be impacted. I'm still hoping for it to still be at least flat, but we'll see where things go. But so far for the year, we're 1.37% increase over last year, cumulative.
We'll take it. That's better news than the opposite. Any questions on the sales tax report? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wascom. All right, moving along, we will have the Department of Student Services quarterly report. Mrs. Pinckney?
Good evening, everyone. I will be sharing just some information that we have. Yes, that's it. Very quick, 3 of the 4 categories that you see here are actually based on August to February 27th because we were really trying to get our data extremely clean. So we haven't really cleaned March yet, as well as we'd like to. Our average daily attendance actually is going through March 31st, and I think it's cut off a little bit up there, so I'll start with the first 2 columns. That's our truancy report for August 7th through February 27th. So you can see as a district, we are down 3%, which is pretty good looking at the amount of students that we've gone from being truant to not being truant this year. And of course, you can see kind of how our schools are faring when it comes to truancy. And remember, truancy is that 5 days. Once you hit that 5 days, it's in a term, it can be very, very difficult. So this one has been probably one of the more difficult ones to work with this year, but we are working and we are still pulling these numbers, looking at the students, and also working with the schools. Our schools are doing a good job of offering attendance recovery, and that's going to continue through May. So fingers crossed that we'll be able to even make our goal when it comes to truancy for this year. The second two columns that you see there, guys, that's going to be average days missed. We talked about this in quarter report 2. LDOE is starting to send us information about average days missed. Normally, we're concerned with average daily attendance, like your daily
Felicia,
attendance.
this is the one that they really care about now at LDOE.
Yes, sir. So normally we're like 92%, 93%. No, they're looking at how many days a student misses in Natchitoches. So the report that we received from the state back in January said that as of 23-24, we had 14.2 as a district. So the average student in Natchitoches misses 14.2. Right now, and I know Dr. Eloy, it's not the number I showed you earlier.
It's
I
still
ran it
amazing.
Again, but we're at 8.1, and we have about, 5.5, 6 weeks left of school.
So just so y'all are aware, the state wanted us to get to 12,
Yes,
and we got to 8.
so far. So
And to give you an idea of some of the districts who are kind of puffing out their chest for saying they're doing it well, and I won't name them, are at 10. And in 1 year with Felicia and her team's work, she's gone from 14 to 8.1. I mean, I keep telling her they're probably going to highlight her at the state as a model for how to make this happen, but that indicator right there is massive.
So we're watching those numbers. Our team is really looking at our students who have missed like considerable amount of days, and really trying to stop that. And we have some success stories, and some of them are not as successful as we would have liked. But many of our students we were able to intervene on and change some of the trajectory. The third set. Now that is average daily attendance. That's typically what we would see on average. 90%. How many kids are in the building on a daily? So last year about 91. I think we were kind of inching down and getting into 90 at this point, but right there, 91.45. As according to our year-to-date report from EdLink, we are at the 92.83. I want to show you, as soon as Mr. Wascom is finished with this, one more little graph that kind of shows the months of the year this year and how our district is at the highest it's been in 3 years. So we'll look a little bit at that. Our last two columns, that's our out-of-school suspensions. We, of course, as a team, didn't want to mark anybody as of red, even if they did show a bit of an increase this year. We really just didn't see as a district us having astronomical numbers of increases when it comes to that. So that's why you see a lot of yellow and not red for a decline. So real quick, Mr. Wascom, I'm just going to take over for 1 second. And I pulled it up, guys, so I hope it is still not going to make me go back into EdLink. Okay, so it's going to be kind of hard to see it, but we are the green line for 24-25. So as you can see, for August, we started up at the top of the lines. Same thing with September, October, November, December. We did hit a decline in January, and I've talked to a few other districts that said that same thing happened. I know that was a very, very sick month. But then you can see in February, we're back up on top, and also for March. So
If I'm reading that correctly, every month besides January, we were higher than the past 3 years?
Yes, sir.
Like better than the past 3 years?
Better. So we're sitting on top of the other two, except for January. And I don't know if there's anything we can go back and clean there, but I'll look and let you know.
Is the attendance recovery in this?
Oh,
Or is there
absolutely.
just the numbers?
Absolutely. So we started running some reports on attendance recovery and started talking to schools, hey, make sure that's in there. Make sure we're putting all of our recoveries, any opportunities for students here.
So data entry, that's been corrected. The multi-pronged approach of making
Mr. Benefield, will you use your microphone?
So the data entry, much better, and making sure we track these students a little better and then earlier in the process. And then the last three of the three was attendance recovery. Okay.
But I think one thing to note that's important, some of this is cleanup, but that where you saw the average number of days a student misses, that's without any sort of, the state doesn't let us remove anyone there. If you,
No.
that's excused. So what, that right there, that's why I'm really pushing how amazing that is, because we don't get to, if a kid misses, doesn't matter how legitimate it was, it goes into that.
Yes.
And so we almost reduced, what's that, a reduction of 35%?
Yes, sir. So last year we had, I think at this time, around 75, 80 students that had that threshold of 40 or more days, and that's just flat out. I mean, actually 130. So right now we're at about 60 students, so we've cut that in half. Also, our students with 40 unexcused days, I think we had about 75, 80. That's the 75, 80, and we're at about 22 students. And that's as of February 27th, as I said, because that's the clean, that's our cleanest number. So March, April, and May we'll present to you guys in June.
Thank you, Ms. Pinckney.
Thank you.
We appreciate your report. Item number 7, Finance, Facility, Service, and Insurance, Ms. Palmer.
7A, discuss and consider approving the following resolutions designating Nash Parish School Board Business Director as Nash Parish School Board Representative on Nash Parish ITEP Board.
Yes, ma'am. So what this is if y'all recall, the governor made some changes to the ITEP. It used to be each individual entity voted on it. Now what they're asking us to do is create a committee of those entities. So the sheriff, the mayor, the school board, and the parish government, with also some ex officio members. The ex officio members would be like Miss Laura Lyles, because she's the economic development partner, and then also Miss Yolanda from the tax assessor's office, because she supplies a lot of the information. And actually our SRO here tonight would be one of the members of that committee as well, Mr. Chad. And so what they need at the state office, they emailed us about 2 weeks ago, they need to know who our representative is. After looking at what other parishes are doing and also getting with the economic development folks, they recommended that it be our business director. Also, if you know this, it makes sense, Mr. Wascom is also on the tax commission board as the representative from the school board. So what we'll do is we'll submit this to them, and then anytime an ITEP comes up, that committee will meet. It will never be all 4 board members, because it'll always be the sheriff's rep and the school board's rep. But if it's in the city, it'll be the mayor and the other 2 of us. If it's outside the city, it'll be the police jury or the parish president and the sheriff and us. But it'll never be all 4 of us. And when one of those comes up, that committee will meet and they will vote, and that will be what's passed on to the governor. If they choose not to vote, then the governor makes the decision and it automatically goes into effect.
So is this something we do every year? Because I feel like we did this past year.
No, ma'am. This is the first with this. So Governor Landry, when he came in, I think he did an executive order to change this, and we've been talking about this for a while under Mr. Benefield's presidency. He was going to get this going, but then the state wasn't. They didn't have their ducks in a row. We were kind of ahead of the curve, and in fact, we had talked to LSBA, or Mr. Benefield had, and LSBA was kind of in a holding pattern. We heard nothing, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, we get an email saying, hey, we need your information. So, all the entities.
Didn't we talk about, or didn't we vote to have you represent or something? Was that the same thing?
We did not vote on it, Chad. We recommended, because he could come straight back, but with Mr. Wascom being the CFO and already on the tax commission,
Right.
it's a better fit. And
I just remember
it's,
having the conversation.
we were set. You're right. Our stuff was all put together, but unfortunately, the state wasn't ready to roll.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
And that concludes finance.
Okay. Item number 9, Executive Report, Russ Danzy, Chairperson.
Item 9A, discuss transportation contract. Mr. Matoir?
The reason I'd put it on for to discuss it because the contract what we have going to end next year in June, and I would like for us to get to start looking what put it out for bid or what we planning on doing, because if we don't pick the same company we have, we need to give the other company at least a year to start getting the buses better. So that's why I would like for us to try to have a decision at least by August when we start. I would make a decision which way we're gonna go, and I would like for us to look at it either like we're doing, or we leasing the bus and hire the drivers ourselves. I'd like to look which way, because if we can save money either way, that's the way I would like to, see which way we need to go with that. Because I know a lot of parishes is doing renting their buses and hiring the drivers to have more control over it. But if it's not cost-wise, I'll stay the same way we are.
So through discussions with Mr. Matoir, we decided to create a transportation committee that could meet, review the contract, review all of the necessary items to make a good decision. So Mr. Matoir has agreed to chair that committee, and we'll need at least 3 others to.
I'd serve on it, but I'd rather not chair it.
Well,
yeah, 'cause
I think you would make a wonderful chair. Like your background is so heavy with transportation knowledge.
Yeah.
So maybe unofficial chair, but Mr. Matoir needs 3 friends on his committee. So if we could have some volunteers, not everybody all at one time. I would like to serve with you. Okay.
I'll help you also, Mr. Matoir.
So we have Mr. Russ Danzy, we have Mr. Billy Benefield, and if no one else. Well, I was gonna, if no one else, I didn't want to take anybody's spot if you had your heart set on it.
I don't think you're going to offend anybody.
Okay, and so I will serve as well. So if you could email us the contract, we'll start from that and then get a date to meet and review that. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
And you said you want to have that resolved by June 1st?
I think you said by August.
Oh.
It's by August with that. And I guess what we need to do too is get to actually the cost of what it's costing us and all the contract and all that, but we need to see what actually the true cost is.
Can a board member make a suggestion for a company when y'all start?
Absolutely.
And what I'd like to do is make sure we put it out for, nationwide, with all the contract. And, we'll be getting back, because I'd like to see what the true cost, what it actually costing us.
Item 9B, discuss state third grade retention policy, Act 422 of the Louisiana Legislature. Dr. Eloy?
Yes, sir. So if you notice, I've been talking about this a lot recently on social media, and we're going to have something in the journal. We also are mandating that principals show so many points of contact with parents, because we need to make sure parents of third graders know now and in the future that we don't have full control over promotion and retention of third graders. There is a law now, Act 422 of the 2023 legislature, that states that if a student is well below on the Dibble screener by the end of this process, they have to be retained, with the exception of if they have what we call a good cause exemption. What will happen is they did a beginning of the year test, they did a middle of the year test, and in April, this month, they will do an end of year test. If they are still well below, they will have another test in May. So that's one other time to take it. If they're still well below there, then they will also have summer school and another test in the summer to also dictate if they're not well below. What we are doing is we are doing intense interventions with these students to hopefully ensure that they will not be well below. Some of the information on the good cause exemptions, I'd ask you to read it, but basically if you are a an ESL, English Second Language, a student with an IEP, or a student with a 504 plan, and some of that is about your reading ability, and we do interventions with you, then that is some good cause exemption where you don't have to be retained. Also, if you're a regular ed student, but you were held back prior, there's some language there that also means we're not going to hold you back twice. But I can tell you, even with intense interventions, even with the good cause exemptions, there will probably be statewide more third graders retained this year than we've ever seen before. We are working, it is probably our highest priority right now to ensure the least amount of third graders are retained as possible for their sake and from a logistical standpoint for the district. But we definitely want the board to be educated on this because you're probably not going to hear a lot now, but come summertime, you'll probably be getting calls from parents. But we are doing, I'm telling you this so you also know, we are communicating, we are over-communicating, we are over and over communicating so parents aren't caught unaware if their child doesn't meet Act 422. And we're also, one of the pieces we're communicating heavily is we're doing everything we can, but ultimately this is from the state legislature. This is a law, and we don't have as much wiggle room to SBLC a student forward and promote them as we have in the past for that grade level.
So how are schools communicating it to these third grade parents? I seen the Facebook post from the district.
So there's Facebook posts, but they also are sending letters specifically to students. And I'd have to get with, I can have, if y'all would like, I can have Ms. Penrod, who's leading this effort, speak briefly about this next Tuesday and speak a little bit about some of the specifics in terms of the communication piece.
Whatever we need to do, because they don't all have Facebook, and I would hate for a parent to.
We also sent
out when it's too late.
We sent out a J Campus message to all third grade parents as well. At this point right now, I believe every parent at the very least has gotten 3 pieces of contact.
Okay.
But I'd love for her to come and speak specifically as to what that is, so y'all are aware.
Thank you.
Great
Do
idea.
you know as part of the intervention if tutoring?
Yes, ma'am. So, in fact, what we're doing right now, I spoke to Ms. Penrod yesterday. Y'all probably know we have 3 reading interventionists, 2 at LP Vaughn, 1 at Weaver. The bulk of these students are at Weaver just because they have the bulk of our third graders. We're moving all of those interventionists for a short time to Weaver just to work with those kids. And that's all they do. They just pull students and work on reading intervention.
Okay, if there's no other questions, Mr. Dancy?
Item 9C, discuss 25-26 Natchez School Board summer school plans.
All right. Mr. Wascom, do you have that document? And I apologize, this one isn't on your board docs either. It's a separate... All right, summer school 2025, it's going to be very different than it has looked in years past. Remember, ESSER is over. The push for summer school in the past was to make it super big and also to use those ESSER funds. Well, ESSER money's gone, and also we have shown that our students are not behind as they were before, the catch up from COVID, as it were. So summer school will be smaller, and you're also going to see some interesting things like third and fourth graders. All third and fourth graders will be at LP Vaughn's campus. That's district wide. We will provide busing, but that is because we did not have the number of staff or the number of students to justify having as many campuses. Also, you'll notice that 5th through 8th graders and 9th through 12th graders will be at Natchez Central campus. I assure you they will be separated significantly, different buildings even. But remember, we're doing a lot of moving of city schools. So there really wasn't, we couldn't have them at East, we couldn't have them at NJH, we could not have them at Magnet. And then moving them out to Province Hall or Marthaville would have meant the majority of kids would have been bussed out. So they will be there. Again, we have Building Q. We also have the CTE building. So some of the separation can easily happen, and it's not going to be a big deal. I just know it's different than normal. And then also Lakeview will have their 9th through 12th graders. MPTCC will also have their kids. And then NVA we'll do virtual.
What are those dates?
The dates are June 2nd through June 18th for grades 3 through 8th. If you wonder why it's those days, it's specifically so those third graders can get that 30 hours that Act 422 says they have to have if they are not on reading level. So it's specifically geared towards those kids, and then there's no EOC at the end of their testing, so it's only June 2nd through June 18th, whereas the high school has to run longer because testing for the EOC, which is the majority of the kids who will be there, will occur during that time period. And if we would have stopped it on June 18th, they would have had summer school end on the 18th, wait a week, then test. We also know that we will be observing, obviously, the Juneteenth holiday. The time for the students will be 8 to 11:30, and you can see the time for the coordinators and the teachers. We will serve breakfast and lunch, and we will provide bus transportation. But as you are always aware, we do drop-off locations. We do not do drop-offs at every house, which is always a bit of a culture shock to folks. Also, it's not on here, but I do want to make sure you're aware. Previously, it was ESSER funded, and you remember we had to have so many kids that we struggled to get folks, so we had a higher ESSER pay rate. ESSER is now gone. The pay rate will be above the previous pre-ESSER pay rate, but it will be below the ESSER pay rate. It will be 60% of, no matter who they are, if they're a custodian, if they're a teacher, if they're a nurse, if they're a coordinator, the pay rate will be 60% of what it was before. I can tell you off the top of my head, that means teachers will be making, instead of the $50 an hour, they will be making $30. And I just can't remember every other one off the top of my head, but I can have that for you for next Tuesday. If you can move on, Mr. Wascom. Who attends? Students with attendance deficit, obviously, although we've cut that down significantly. Academic deficit, which means if you failed a course in math or ELA in 3rd through 8th, or if you did not pass or are failing one of the EOC courses at the high school level. And then obviously the one I just spoke about, if you did not meet the Act 422 requirements in the 3rd grade. And we will be doing those registration forms. They'll be due by May 12th, and we'll have the final count of students, which will then allow us to get our final count of teachers and send out all that to our teachers to register to be a part of it.
How are we going to notify parents for these 3rd graders?
That's part of what Ms. Penrod will be able to talk to you all about, because we are saying that for those 3rd graders that summer school is mandatory. And so she will be able to speak in detail of exactly how that communication will go out. And we will we're not just going to rely on the letter. We need parents there needs to be a back and forth on this one. So, all right, Mr. Wasson. So 8 site coordinators, that's 2 coordinators per site. We've done that in the past. That's someone to deal with academics and someone to deal with discipline. It's worked well. We're thinking approximately 80 teachers and approximately 1,200 students, but give or take some. And we'll have final numbers to report to y'all for the May board meeting. That's just kind of a sample schedule. You can go on from that. Attendance policy, they have to be there for it or they're excused from it because it's counterproductive if you only have 11 days of summer school and you miss the first 2. And we're going to, as always, this is kind of verbatim from last year, high quality curriculum. All right. Any questions?
Board members, any questions? I think you did a great job explaining. And thank you for keeping us posted on, because you'd let us know previously the pay would probably be reduced and, summer school would look different. So this isn't a huge surprise to any of us around the table.
But I am happy the team was able to look at it and say, okay, I think previously it was $25 an hour pre-ESSER. So they were still able to give a bump, but, I mean.
It's still a great opportunity.
ESSER's gone, so.
Yeah. Back to the real world.
Yeah.
So if there are no other questions to come before the board.
Ms. Phelps.
Yes, sir.
Capital Conference, is there anything that we need to do with that?
So you should have already been registered, and the deadline for registration is not until, I think, the 12th or the 18th of April. The Capital Conference is actually on the 30th, I believe.
Yeah, April 30th. I'm looking at the LSBA update right now.
She'll have your package ready for next week for those of us attending.
Okay.
And of course, it's really important that you attend. It's kind of a big year at the legislation desk, so you're definitely
Teacher pay
needed.
raise being, or the staff pay raise being the biggie.
Right. So your
And board, we
presence.
will have a few items that we're going to add in the interim that are some important items we have to do. One of which you'll be very excited about. It is some movement on the Head Start Center and us revoking our rights to it, so that way they can clear the title, so they can actually sell it at the state level.
So that's gonna be on next week.
Yes, sir.
We get a chance to tell the people down at Baton Rouge to put their money where their mouth is.
Yes, we should get T-shirts printed and wear the shirts.
Absolutely.
It does come with 5 hours of CLU, so you will get credit hours for your education while you're there as well. Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Benefield, your face looks like it has a question.
No, after those four constitutional amendments failed, I think there's going to be some grinding and gyrating in Baton Rouge.
Right. It'll be a very interesting conference for sure.
But I mean, if we had a governor that said, if you give us that 25-cent sales tax, I'll pave all the roads in Louisiana, and where are we at that? And then the governor said, if you pass the gambling, we'll fund education, and where are we at with that? So anyway.
Okay. If nothing else is to come before the board, we are adjourned.